Man, Max Allegri has proven me wrong. Max Allegri, in these last couple games for Milan, since the start of the season, has completely revolutionized this Milan team. It is completely unrecognizable from last season. And myself was very pessimistic about the appointment of Max Allegri, and I thought it was going to be much of the same from what we saw in those last couple seasons at Juventus, which were a complete disaster, I think, for Allegri. But with now the sample size from this season, what we've gotten is an absolute revolution at Milan. I'm going to say this. I feel like this has probably been the best thing to happen to Milan since the post-Maldini era, I guess you could say. Now with this 3-0 win versus Udinese, I feel like it's probably a very good time to kind of see what Allegri has changed in these last couple games for Milan. And I think number one, the defensive stability and the tactical discipline. Under Allegri, Milan have now won 3 matches in Serie A in a row without conceding a single goal, something that Fonseca or Conceição couldn't do all last season. And fun fact for you, the last time that Milan has had this record, we went on and we won the Scudetto. So just a little heads up there. But I think these numbers are definitely something that has surprised us Milan fans, because if you just look at the roster that we have in the defense specifically, right, even without Mike Maignan for this game versus Udinese, right, our starting goalkeeper and our captain and our back three now, where this formation has just gotten the best out of so many players like a Tomori, like a Salamakers, like I think Pavlovic as well. But we are conceding a lot fewer shots and a much lower XG facing Milan. And I feel like this just goes to show that Allegri's tactical discipline and his defensive structure has improved the marking, right? The organization. And I feel like just in general has raised the standards of the concentration from a lot of these other players. And I think also with the introductions of Luka Modric and Adrian Rabiot in front of the defense, I feel like just makes it way more comfortable for the defense to kind of do their thing as well. And I mean, look, Allegri was still irritated by the occasional positional issues, and he did demand more from a lot of these players in all phases of the game. But I feel like that just shows that he's instilling that mindset and that consistency and not being complacent on defense and in other areas around the pitch. I feel like with Allegri, with the amount of experience he has, you cannot buy this. Paulo Fonseca definitely did not have this. Conceição definitely did not have this. When you just kind of look at it in retrospect, right, what Allegri is known for, right, just having that organization and having that real identity of having a very defensively structured team, I feel like the stats don't lie, to be completely honest. And I think another thing that Allegri has really done in this Milan team is unite the team. We have a proper identity, we have proper clarity, and I feel like one of the criticisms last season that Milan lacked was cohesion, right? We were always talking about that players didn't understand their roles or they didn't move as a unit, and I feel like Allegri has seemed to kind of address those issues. And I feel like by clarifying those roles and stabilizing the lineup as well, right, and building an internal confidence, right, with even, we don't even have Leao in the starting team and we look phenomenal, right? And I feel like, again, I kind of touched on it a little bit earlier, right? The arrivals of Luka Modric and Adrian Rabiot, right? These are guys who are experienced, right, at the top levels, right? Even though Rabiot is 30 years old, right, he knows Allegri, he knows the system. And Luka Modric, man, this guy's leadership is phenomenal. And I think he just brings that calmness throughout not only the midfield, but I think the defense as well. I feel like the defense, right, which is something to kind of look at, right? I think, I'm going to say this. I think the introduction of Luka Modric is going to have a bigger impact on Milan going forward than anything that Reinders has done for Milan, right? Reinders was good, right? He was a phenomenal player, right? He was hands down our best player this season. He got midfielder of the year in Serie A, right? That's not like a little, like a Mickey Mouse trophy, right? This is something that Reinders earned and he deserved it. However, I feel like when we had Reinders, I don't think he added that like calmness, or I don't think he added what Luka Modric brings to the table. And I feel like what Modric brings is that stability in the midfield, right? He even plays a little bit more deeper, which I know Reinders was a little bit more advanced, right? But I feel like what this gives you is something that I think complements Milan a lot more. And I feel like it brings that calmness, like I've been mentioning, in all aspects of the pitch. And I feel like Allegri really boosted that morale and set higher expectations just by doing that. And I mean, off the field as well, right? I feel like Milan has been trying to build that more structured environment, right? They got a new sporting director, right? And kind of more clear objectives. And I feel like just reinforcing the culture, I think, in Milan, right? When you have someone like Allegri, who's already won at Milan, right? Won the Scudetto, right? And obviously in Champions League, right? We did okay with Allegri, but I feel like Allegri coming back and really just identifying the main issues in the squad, right? Making it clear and unifying the team. So I think that just goes to show what Allegri is doing. And I mean, the attack, right? This game versus Udinese was by far probably one of our best games in terms of really attacking the opponent, right? I think with a balance of pressing and attacking, of course, right? The Udinese game, I feel like, is the perfect example to kind of look at, right? Christian Pulisic came back into the starting 11 and was sensational. Loved Pulisic in this game. And for all these U.S. men national team fans that are constantly criticizing Pulisic and that are constantly saying, oh, he has a lack of leadership and this game is exactly what Christian Pulisic can give you, right? He scored a brace, and I believe he got an assist in this game. But high pressing, quick in transitions, and he scored 2 goals and assisted. He was opening up space. I know the Santi Jimenez side of the situation is really starting to gain a lot more traction, right? Especially because I feel like he had one particular opportunity to score a goal, and once again, he squandered it. But it's like, I think the main thing that you can look at is we're at least getting these opportunities to score, right? And Santi Jimenez is getting into the right spaces and the right time to really expose, right, those mistakes that the opposition defense is doing, right? And I feel like Milan under Allegri isn't just sitting back and defending, right? There's a lot more structure in the attack as well, right? Using 2 strikers, right, and overlapping fullbacks, right? Estupinian was phenomenal in this game versus Udinese, right? There was a lot of people on Milan Twitter already criticizing Estupinian, saying that he wasn't good enough, and I stuck by him. So Estupinian, once again, tip my hat to you, my friend. You played phenomenally this game, and I think you got that assist for the Pulisic goal, maybe. But Estupinian, right, playing that overlapping fullback role, and of course midfielders who are playing that support role, right, without leaving the defensive shape vulnerable, right? I feel like that was such a big criticism of last season, is we just leaked so many goals out the back, and it was very frustrating because it's like I feel like we would at least concede like 2 goals a game. I'm not even joking. That's at least what it felt like. So I feel like the intensity from the front, right, pressing early, winning your second balls, forcing mistakes out the opposition, right, it allows Milan to dominate not just in possession, but by making the opponent make mistakes and making them feel uncomfortable, and just constantly being a threat in all threats of the pitch. I want to say some stats here because I think this is very, very important to kind of look at of what Allegri has done. So we're going to compare it to Allegri just in the first 4 matches that he's been appointed versus under Fonseca and Conceição. Goals conceded over the first 4 matches, Allegri has only let in 2 goals, and that was in match day 1 versus Cremonese, right? Compared to last season was much more higher, right? Conceding more and more goals due to the rotations that Fonseca was doing and due to the defensive issues that were not addressed, right? So in clean sheets, Milan in the first 4 games of the season, we've kept 3 clean sheets. I mentioned earlier in the video that the last time we kept 3 clean sheets in the first 4, we went on to win the Scudetto. So not saying that that's gonna happen, but I think it's really important to kind of look at, because it's like you really need strong starts of the season to really catch momentum and really just establish that mentality going forward. So, and Milan last season never managed to win 3 straight games without conceding last season. So the shots allowed against Milan in the 90 minutes, right? Only 16 total shots allowed in the first few games, right? The XG, right, is 0.23. Previously last season, opponents were averaging 1.79 in just 3 matches. So that's just to equate 53 shots in 3 matches is absolutely ridiculous. And that's just going to show what Fonseca failed to do, what Conceição failed to do, and what Allegri is really establishing in this Milan team. And just the last stat here, Milan are the best team in Europe among the major leagues in terms of lowest shots allowed. So I think this is just going to show what Allegri is doing to this team, right? Changing the mentality, right? Drastic defensive improvements, right? A drop in shots for the XG and everything like that is just such a clear indicator, right? Words talk, numbers scream, and the numbers are screaming. This is a clear indication of what Allegri does to really make Milan such a better defensive unit. Milan is a lot more consistent in these last 4 games than they ever have been last season, right? 3 out of these 4 games, 3 clean sheets, 2 goals conceded, which is beautiful, right? It's a sign of consistency. And last season, Milan were way more shaky out the back, right? With constant defensive rotations, right? Individual mistakes, right? How terrible was Pavlovic last season, or Tomori, or, like Gabbia was our saving grace last season, right? We were a lot more vulnerable to opponents, right? In transitions and set pieces as well, right? Costed us games repeatedly, week in and week out. I think Allegri's system is definitely taking effect this early, right? The tactics, right? Changing the formation, going to a back 3 system, right? We're a lot more compact. And I feel like the midfielders, right? And I feel like the addition of Salamakers, man, another brilliant game from Alexis. I think this is gonna be one of our top players. Like, I think easily he's going to be a top 3 player of Milan this season, right? Just with the sample size that we have had in these first 4 games, right? Attacking, right? Defensive work as well. I feel like it just seems to be working, right? And the team is conceding less, right? Our defensive shape is holding up, and I feel like even if the attacking play still needs time to fully click, we already have a solid foundation of what Allegri has something to build on. And on top of all this beautiful stuff, we haven't even seen Rafael Leao be unleashed. So it's like, I feel like that is just so much more to look forward to in this season, because we all know that Rafael Leao is going to offer so much in the attacking phase, right? In build-up play and obviously offensive transition as well. He is probably the best in that regard, right? Taking the ball, right? Carrying the ball, right? Beating his man one-on-one. He is one of the best players in the world at doing that. So I feel like there's just a lot to look forward to this season, and I cannot wait what this season has to hold, right? Even when we're playing 1 game a week, I don't care, about 1 game a week. All of these Inter fans and Juventus fans, they can make fun of us all they want, but it's like, I think the one thing that us Milan fans can look at this season is we needed this. We needed this wake-up call. We needed this exact situation to happen for us to really build a solid foundation for us to go forward with. So guys, let me know what you think in the comment section below. What do you guys think about Allegri, right? In his appointment, right? He's completely revolutionized AC Milan, and I feel like we're definitely going to be a force to reckon with. I cannot wait until that game versus Napoli. I think that is going to be a phenomenal one. And yeah, I haven't been this excited about Milan in a really long time, right? I mentioned in the very first video, right, for this season, it felt like it was match day 39 because of all the mistakes that were happening, right? Obviously, losing to Cremonese is never good, but when you kind of just look at those improvements from match day 1 to now, we look like a completely different team. So I cannot wait until the next half of this whole season, right? So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe. Check us out in the links in the description below, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Ciao ragazzi.